It's a big world out there. Welcome to Bigfoot's Wilderness Podcast.
Back in the fall of 1976, my junior year in high school, me and a buddy of mine decided to go squirrel hunting late one evening along the Mississippi River bluff, south of my hometown of Natchez by God, Mississippi. We hurriedly scurried up the face of the 300-foot-tall bluff to get to the first ridge. Then, crossing through the bottom to the second ridge, we had to get on our hands and knees to crawl through a mock orange thicket along a narrow deer trail. Now, a mock orange is a wild thorny bush that is fortified with thorns over 2 inches long. We carefully crawled through to the other side, none the worse for the wear, headed up the second ridge and towards the dead end of a deep ravine that marked the beginning of the third ridge. As light was fading, we crossed over the third ridge to the backside. Squirrels were everywhere all at once, gnawing on hickory nuts, cutting acorns, jumping from tree to tree. We began to shoot squirrels like the 4th of July, literally shattering the silence with repeated 12-gauge shotgun blasts until darkness brought a halt to our harvest. Both of us were busy retrieving our squirrels as the last waning remnants of light faded to dark. No problem. We knew the way back. Just as we both turned to head back up the backside of the third ridge, something let out a very loud, long howl, followed by 3 very deep bass grunts. The sound was so loud we could actually feel it resonating off our bodies, and it was close, real close. Just across the ravine on the near face of the fourth ridge, business picked up. Both of us stopped, frozen, single file, scared to move. My buddy finally heard the silence and asked, "Did you hear that?" Friends, I not only heard that, but my pucker was busy etching a 45 RPM record of that sound for posterity. I finally was able to eke out a "yeah," to which my buddy said, "Well, I don't know what that was, but it's going to have to eat a whole lot of lead in this gun and try and catch me." And he took off in a flash. Now, some of you know that I ran track and cross country in high school. My buddy and I were teammates and trained together. So let's just say that we were both young and in shape. And as soon as he took off, I was right behind him. I gotta tell you, here we were in a full blind sprint running through the darkness with our squirrel vests choking the ever-loving life out of us. We literally couldn't see our hands in front of our face, but neither of us let up off the accelerator. Nuh-uh. And there was no honor among friends either. What we weren't big enough to run over, we just ricocheted off and kept going. One of us would fall and the other would pass, every man for himself. We were running so fast that we weren't even rattling the leaves. We topped the third ridge, gained momentum going down towards the bottom, managed to skirt the deep dark abyss of the deep ravine, up the backside of the second ridge, down the hill lickety-split, and ran through that mock orange thicket standing straight up. Yep, we bulldozed through something so fierce that not even a deer could penetrate it, but there was no stopping us. On we went, scalding the woods with our erratic abbreviated bust-ass here and there, onward, up and over the first ridge, then leaped off that bluff like 2 mountain billy goats hell-bent for anywhere but there. Friends, let me tell you, even though your butt pucker is locked into a death grip and your feet done just about run plumb out from under yourself, even then a country boy has enough sense to cross his feet together while sliding down a tree-lined bluff at breakneck speed. When our bowling ball trajectory reached the bottom, we about tore my uncle's fence down, rolled over the top and scooted inside my truck, locked the doors, and rolled the windows up tight. We didn't say much about it, Didn't want people to think that we were making it up. But I gotta tell you, to this day, I have never been back to that place. I've been hunting with family around that area a few times later on, but always with eyes in the back of my head and my ears straining for even the slightest hint of the source of that badass noise that still haunts me today. Pretty interesting story, right? Couple of teenagers scared by something that most likely was a Bigfoot. Good thing they were able to get the heck out of there. So the story was shared with me by a gentleman named Tommy Dunn. And Tommy is actually in the midst of planning a Bigfoot celebration in Natchez, Mississippi. So I'm going to run a little commercial for you to hear. Maybe you'll make the trip down there. So go ahead and check this out. We'll be right back.
300 years ago, a legend was born in Natchez, Mississippi. And we're throwing a party. It's the Natchez Bigfoot Birthday Bash, happening November 4th, 5th, and 6th, featuring lectures by field researcher M.K. Davis, Dr. Jeff Meldrum, and from the acclaimed documentary Discovering Bigfoot, Todd Standing, with special guests Turtle Man, Bubba Buck Adventures, Mrs. Mississippi America 21, Grayson McNeil. Musical entertainment by the Gabriel Bass Songwriters Showcase, Ben Lewis, Scratch, and American Idol finalist Hannah Everhart. The Bigfoot legend was born in Natchez 300 years ago, and it's time to celebrate with music, food, arts and crafts, a Bigfoot calling contest, plus a 5K marathon and 1 mile fun run. We're even having a birthday cake for the big guy. It's the Natchez Bigfoot Birthday Bash, happening November 4th, 5th, and 6th in beautiful Natchez, Mississippi. It's gonna be legendary. Sponsored by Locust Alley, the City of Natchez, Visit Natchez, Mid-South Broadcasting, the Louisiana Band of Choctaw, and Miss Lou Tours.
Boy, that sounds like a lot of fun. I wish I could go, but I will be stuck here in Virginia. So good luck, Tommy, and to the 300th Bigfoot celebration. Hope that cake is big. And I hope everyone has a great time, and maybe this will just give you the inspiration to go down there and celebrate with them. So let's go ahead and move on. All right, next is author Chris Merola. You may know him from his book, The One Who Runs and Hides, A True Story. He shared his account a few years back on social media, and it's quite possible that Chris was at the time in the minority when it came to the paranormal aspect of Bigfoot. His sightings and encounters began in 2008 when he stayed at a friend's cabin. So, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, let me introduce Chris Merola. Thank you very much for coming on to Bigfoot's Wilderness Podcast and telling us your story.
Mike, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me on. It's a journey in my life that I did not ask for at all. This is something that I wasn't planning. It started, just to say to your viewers, it started in the summer of 2008 in June. And I was looking for a place to take my 8-year-old son to get away. And as a father, I enjoyed fishing and hunting. And I was teaching my son how to fish, and not so much on the hunting aspect because his mom wasn't too keen on that part. But, he did like the wilderness, and a friend of mine that I went to high school with, his family had property up in the northwest corner of Connecticut where the Berkshire Mountains begin and escalate up into Massachusetts, into Vermont. And they had over 800 acres. And the matriarchs of this family had passed away back in 96, and they had 3 sons, and they weren't taking care of the property as much. They were living in California and Virginia, and one was living in New Jersey, but their time spending on this beautiful property, which I don't know why they didn't, was only maybe for a few weeks during the summer. And my friend said, okay, Chris, why don't you come on up? There's a cabin by the mansion, and about several hundred yards into the woods, and it's right around a pond, and you can stay there with you and your son and have a good time. So I told my friend, wow, that's awesome, it's beautiful. So I went up there, and I checked the place out, and no one had been in the cabin for about 9 years. So when I opened the door, there was like mice and chipmunks in there and everything for a long period of time. And so I cleaned it up real good for 2 days, and I went and grabbed my son, and I brought him up there for a week. And the first night, we were sleeping in bed there, and all of a sudden I started hearing this cracking about 1 o'clock in the morning, like it was almost like thunder. And and it was no rain or dark clouds or anything like that. And I'm going, what could this be? And it just kept on going, and it was probably about 30 yards from the cabin. And my son, I was looking at him, and he was just sleeping down, dead asleep. Nothing would wake him up, and thank God it didn't. So I got down. There were no floodlights or outside lights, and unfortunately, being in a rush, I didn't really bring a flashlight with me. I had a small, like, well, it was his flashlight. It was a Johnny Depp Pirates of the Caribbean flashlight he brought along, but that's all we had. It was stupid on my part because I was just trying to hurry. And so it just kept on hearing this crunch, 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 and it was so loud. It was petrifying. So I knew not to turn the lights on inside the cabin because whatever was out there could see what was happening inside. So I left the lights off, and I just crawled on the floor and went up to the door in the back where the bathroom was, and just was peeking outside. And it just kept on going from 1 o'clock to about, I would say about 4:30 to almost 5 o'clock in the morning, constant. So I didn't sleep. I just stayed there in the chair, just looking, at the door. I think I grabbed a couple of the knives that were in the drawers. I just really wasn't prepared for something like this. And when daybreak came out, and I could see that I could go outside, and if anything was coming at me, I had time to see, what it was. And so I went out about, I think it was about 6 o'clock or so. It was enough light, and I went into the direction of where the sound was coming from. And I found on the bottom of this tree that was hit by lightning about, I don't know, maybe 30 feet up. I found these strips of bark that were taken off of this tree that was about 7 feet long, anywhere from 6.5 to 7 feet long, laid down in strips. And now these strips were about maybe 3 to 4 inches thick, and the height I mentioned, but it was laid down, and I'm looking at it in a pattern, like it went, straight down on one end, then in an angle and an angle. It almost made like a 90-degree angle, or no, excuse me, 180. And I'm going like, what creature or animal could do something like this? Now, I had no idea of Bigfoot even being in Connecticut or New England. I always thought in 2008 and that time about Gimlin and Patterson, that was out west in California and Oregon, Alaska, and all those places. So it wasn't popping into my mind what did it. So after seeing that there, I grabbed them all, and I brought them over to the cabin, and I threw them underneath the cabin. And I went and got my son, and I said, well, what do you want to do for the rest of the day? And we decided to go tubing down the Farmington River. So we went down, had a great time going down tubing down the Farmington River. And when we came back late that afternoon, we're going to the steps of the cabin, and there, I mean, was this the creature, took a dump, um, like a baseball bat. I'm being a hunter. I'm looking at the front of the steps, the calling card of, like, an animal for scat. This was straight and about. I'm not kidding you, man. I mean, it was like 20 inches. It was impressive, and you're, and it was just lying there on the steps as we were getting up to the cabin. And being a hunter, animals leave their scat, and I knew this was a sign of a territorial marking. And believe me, still at that time, I had no idea that Bigfoot would exist around here. I did believe in Bigfoot, but always out west or that part. So, I didn't save it. Now, if something like that ever happened by the cabin, I would grab it, bag it, and the whole bit, and put it in my freezer and use it for DNA. But so I'm telling my son, and I have to explain to him that, some type of animal's out here, so we have to be cautious, because I really wasn't familiar with the property that we were on, this mountain. And remember, nobody's been on this property for years and years and years. So, about 5 or 6 days later, I told my girlfriend, and said, why don't you come on up to the cabin and we'll have a barbecue, and we'll just cook. And she was really a city girl. Was a great person, and so on, but the outdoor life wasn't her attraction. But she did come up, and we were cooking, and it was about I'd say we're eating on the deck, and it was just about 8:30 in the evening. The sun had just set, and all of a sudden, almost in the exact same area prior where I found the strips of bark coming off the tree, this scream. Now, this scream was so loud. We're sitting there, and it went like, for like, I would say, I don't want to exaggerate, maybe 30 seconds, but it was pretty close to that. And the way I could describe it was, this is the best way to describe it. If you poured gasoline on a man or a person and lit him on fire and had the strength of an elephant trumpeting, that's how the scream was. It was angry. I mean, it just was such violence in it that it just penetrated our bodies. I mean, that's how close it was. So I get up and I turn around. I go to the corner of the deck, looking out there. Now it's getting to almost completely dark, and I turn around, and my son and my girlfriend are missing from the table. Now I go and I look into the cabin to see, and there they are, both of them, going through the drawers, trying to find the biggest knives. Now it was almost comical. I mean, at the moment, even though the fear that I had, seeing the city girl and my 8-year-old going through the drawers together, looking for the biggest knives, and so I asked my girlfriend to bring up flashlights when she came up, and she did. And I grabbed one of the flashlights, and I went down in the area looking. And there, both of them are screaming and yelling at me, "Dad, come back!" and what are you, crazy and stupid, and the whole bit. And I was crazy and stupid in some respect, yes. But I needed to know what was out there. And I went out and I looked around, couldn't find anything, couldn't see anything. But this all started as I went there from the first night to the end of that week, and that was the beginning of my curiosity of what was out there. Because then I knew right then and there, it wasn't a bear, it wasn't We do have mountain lions there because I've seen 2 in my 12 years of being up on the mountain. But that began the journey of what I've done, and it's led into an addiction. Where now, like I just came back from 3 weeks in Virginia and West Virginia, and camping in the mountains up there. So that was the start of everything for me, Mike.
So, just a couple of quick questions.
Yeah.
The cabin, or was it a cabin or a home, or like just like a kind of like a place you go for leisure? Just a cabin in the woods
Um,
type theme.
on the cover of my book is a picture of the cabin, and above it, I have 2 large glowing eyes above it because I was always seeing eye shine. But after the owners of the property died, the sister of the owner, she came up there, and she was an artist. And my friend that introduced me to the property, he and his other cousin built this cabin that was about, I would say about 300 yards from the mansion, and it was on the pond. And because she was an artist, she wanted glass, so it was wood and glass. But there was so much, like French glass windows, glass, everything, because she liked to paint. But after they built it, Mike, she only lasted a year there. Okay, then she just, I don't know, the loss of her sister and everything else. She really never used it anymore. But it's a beautiful cabin. It's a cabin, but it's a little unusual because there's so much glass in it, and it was great because you could see nature all through around when you walked. And that was the scary thing, that I knew whenever Bigfoot's out there, I knew he could see in no matter what. And there's so much glass from the deck to the bathroom to the side and around. And you'll see that when you look at the book and stuff, if you see it.
Did you ever find any evidence that they'd gotten into the home?
Bigfoot getting into the home? Oh, no. Bigfoot would never get into the home. The only thing that's got into the home was the black bears. They would break into my window. Yeah, they broke into my window and got on the deck and knocked off the charcoal grill and opened up my freezer, and they walked in and out. They do that. But Bigfoot, no. What Bigfoot has done is gone up on my deck and taken my tiki torches and moved around furniture and placed stuff in front of my door when I opened it that I couldn't open it without pushing hard against it. Those things. This was after a period of time. In the beginning, they hated my guts. I mean, they were angry. But after watching me in years, and then with hunting and fishing, and then all of a sudden I gave up the hunting, and because there's so much wildlife there. I mean, the deer population was like a safari because nobody was up there to trespass, and the deer with the meadows, and talking over 800 acres of roaming range. It was amazing for the animal life, and even, like I said, I saw mountain lions there, which I did bring up the topic to DEP, but they still deny it to this day that they're mountain lions there. But no, the only thing Bigfoot has ever done really is shake the cabin. And the way he's done that, he stomps his foot. He's jumping off the tree nearby, and he'll jump right next to the cabin and wake me up out of bed. I know it's, he's done it maybe a half a dozen times for fun. There's nothing vicious about it. I guess, he just bored. I don't know what, but he would come and just shake the cabin, but without hitting it. You could feel the earth when he was stomping that part, and the cabin was on stilts, so it was a lot easier to feel it when it's on stilts.
So when you said that he may have done it just for fun, you're trying to say that Bigfoot has a sense of humor?
Well, when they come up on your deck and you have 6 tiki torches, and you're using it at night, and then the next morning, you have 4. You're going like, who took the other 2? And there's nobody on this property, So they have a sense of humor, and they have intelligence. Um, do not think that these creatures are, just, um, you know, uh, in the ape or uh, primates. They are so intelligent, vast intelligent. They have capabilities which, I've gotten some conflict about them with the paranormal capabilities that they have. But more and more people are writing to me and saying, I saw Bigfoot walking, and then all of a sudden he disappeared. Just in front of me, just disappeared. Or, seeing them like in stealth mode, where they're like almost like the creature in Predator, where that if you saw that movie, they have this like, I don't know, like a glass tint to them. So for them to, what I've seen, because I've been up there in the mountains for so long with them, I've seen them so often. I've seen these observations of where they just disappear, and it makes you scratch your head. It's science fiction, yes. And other people that have seen Bigfoot, well, hey, they've seen Bigfoot, and okay, you see him once, or maybe you've seen him twice, but and it's just flesh and blood, which I've seen. But there are other things that they have shown to me that makes you say, hey, there's something else there, you know, and especially for people that have property, or and maybe you've heard of on other shows or on your show, whatever, or people contact you that they've been living here for years and years, these families, and Bigfoot has been around them, and they've seen them do these disappearances and magic, whatever you want to call it. They have it. Not everything's black and white. I've learned that.
Right. But in order to get them to come to you to kind of live around or in the area of your cabin, were you attracting them? Were you feeding them?
No, Mike, they've been there for well before I was there. I mean, they were there already. That's why they were pissed. They were angry, but after a while, and then you know they just observed, and as years went on, they made themselves appear more and more. But feeding them, yes. After a while, I said, okay, I'm going to get you on film. So I, I got as much as 13 cameras, and I put them all around the property, and put their peanut butter. They love peanut butter on bread with bird seed, and they would enjoy that, or Snickers bars, Babe Ruth bars. People, if you want to do something like that they enjoy eating, you want to make friends, those items right there will make them happy. But you know, they were clever. I mean, they would go, and I'd put the food there on a tree, on a nail, and have the cameras facing there, and they would like get their body like right next to the camera, like 6 inches away. And when it went on, all you saw was this bright white glow. And then when they moved their body to the side, it either came through their stomach side or their shoulder or the arm, and then you'd see their hair coming from the side as they moved away from the camera. They were very, very clever. They know what cameras are. And I did have a few cameras missing, but I don't think it was from them. It was either from some of the poachers that would come on the property hunting, or it was from maybe the DEP officer that came by, and maybe took a few of my cameras. But feeding them, I did all the time. I did all the time, and they enjoyed it. And so you can do that if you want. If your viewers have any type of contact with them, they probably already know this. I'm not telling them the stuff that they don't already know.
Yeah, your story is obviously a little bit different, but I've had many people in the past tell me that the reason that these creatures would hang around someone's home was because the prior person was feeding them, and then they expected similar treatment from the next person. But in your case, that was their domain. They lived there. You were an intruder. you
Yeah.
took over the you took over the occupancy, but luckily you didn't get injured, which is amazing. Or
Well,
your
they
son
had
or your girlfriend.
yeah. Well, that's yeah, yeah. In the beginning, yes, you're absolutely right. But I think it was more, and just showing you what I observed and what I witnessed, and I always try to share things with people. I on my YouTube channel, I always describe what to look for. And they can take my advice, and I just try to pass it on and educate them about how these creatures are. And I never, besides the screams and yell and
Uh-oh. Looks like we just lost Chris. Oh, he's
no, I'm
back. There you
sorry.
are. No problem.
Somebody was calling me. I had to end it. Um, what was I saying there? You remember where I was at, Mike? I forgot.
I think
Um,
you're just kind of giving a little analysis of
them being uh, aggressive.
yes.
That's they can. There's so many people that can have those encounters, and I've heard about up in Brown Mountain in North Carolina, and the government coming up and killing them, and so on, and people telling me that they attacked their wildlife, which they could, and eat their chickens, which is possible. And some said that my cousin was had his arm broke and is thrown against a tree. Well, my experiences, nothing like that ever happened. And I spent a lot of time out in the wilderness there. I mean, almost every night I would go to the meadows, bring my telescope, and just sit out there and look at the stars and have a cigar and enjoy myself. And they had ample amount of times to bury me and hide me, and they never did. And I am going this weekend alone again for a week up to the mountains up there, and I'm going to go out into the interior, not at the cabin, and hopefully they pay a visit this week, with me. But I have no fear. The fear is gone from that. So once they know you and people that have seen Bigfoot, uh, I believe you're all marked. We're marked. I don't know if they tell by your heart as a person, if you're a good person, and you go into an area without showing fear, you'll have no problem. I honestly believe that you'll have no problem. They can sense at your core, your aura. I don't know how I can say it any better than that, but I just came from Virginia and West Virginia out in the woods, and I told you I made contact with them. They made contact with me. I showed you what happened. Showed so, and I don't know them in Virginia and West Virginia. I haven't shown that. I'm going to try to make that documentary with this, because this is stuff you haven't seen before on Expedition Bigfoot or Monster, a Mountain Monster. Nothing like this. I can't wait to show it to the public. So for me to be out there in the dark woods of the Peter Mountains and the Blue Ridge Mountains by myself, um, they had. I was more afraid of the bear or the mountain lions. It is scary not knowing where you are. I will I'll testify that, because you're out there and it's in the dark and it's, you're by yourself. But there's some connection where they can tell you as an individual if you're good or bad. All I can say is that, they can sense it. I know they don't like hunters, and maybe that's one reason I stopped hunting, because I love bow hunting, and I still fish, but I gave it up because where I was up there in the mountain, there were so many deer, it wasn't even hunting anymore. It was too easy, you know.
So you've been interacting with them for over a decade.
Since 2008, I still am. It's an addiction. I didn't want it to be, but to prove myself to family and friends what I saw, and I mean, my first encounter started in 2014, And the friend that introduced me to the cabin, I met him on the dirt road, and he goes, Chris, I was out there with Janet behind the cabin. We were walking. We found this carcass of this deer, and it's just really weird, and unusual. What could kill a deer like this? And I said, well, what are you talking about? He said, yeah, it's about 100 or so yards behind the cabin. You'll see it there. And I went about 100 yards past the cabin. I went down the old logging road behind there that they used to do logging. And sure enough, I come to this carcass, and all the limbs are removed, all the ribs are broken off, the head is missing, just the spine, little portion of the hip bone, and then I look about 10 to 15 feet away from it, and on the floor of the forest there is all the hair from the deer was laid out like a Persian rug. I mean, no skin attached to it, just all the hair was removed, and it looked like it was just drying. And I took photographs of that. I'll send those to you. Just lying on the ground, and it was like 10 feet by 10 feet. And from my past experience of finding kills and stuff before, and watching enough nature shows that when coyotes or a big cat or something makes a kill, they just pull, spit it out, eat, pull, spit it out, eat, but this was just laid out perfect. So this was then by 2014. So I knew, because of, thank God for the show Finding Bigfoot, I knew it was a Bigfoot in the area because I started watching that show when it came on 2009, because I had to prove to myself, what's out there that I'm living with. So just getting back to this incident. So after looking at the kill there, I went towards the cliffs on the property, and it was probably another, I don't know, maybe 200 yards from the kill. And as I'm getting up towards the cliff, now this was in April of 2014. So when you're up in that high of altitude on the mountains, nothing's blooming yet. I mean, there's nothing there as you go in higher elevation, even in the Peter Mountains or Allegheny, any mountain range, everything blooms late. So I had a clear view. So as I'm going to the ridge just to see where the sounds are that I normally hear at night, and the hoops and howls, I turn my head, and already in full speed is this tall, thin Bigfoot running my way. Now, I wasn't expecting this, so I'm staring at him, and as he's running towards me, but towards me, I want to say he's another 20 yards from me as he's running towards me, but in a straight line, and he runs past me. And as he runs past me, I'm watching him, and he hits this tree and doesn't go past it. Now, he had the worst unorthodox run I've ever seen. I mean, the way he was running, and he was beautiful jet black. I mean, black is black. I mean, like, so if you ever seen a black bear or whatever, a beautiful coat on him, and his face was flat, and you could see his hair running, it wasn't just blowing back, he was just hauling. I mean, he was already in fast mode when I turned my head. And but the thing was, going that fast and not being able to stop was the thing that was scratching my head. I mean, normally anything going that speed, you couldn't slow down that fast. You just can't, and just stop like that. But I'm there, and he didn't go past the tree. So I said, all right, I've been there for 6 years. I'm coming to meet you. I don't care. You haven't killed me yet. You've been watching me and so on. I've seen you now. So I walked to the tree, straight ahead at that tree, right down the middle. So if he jumped out to the right or jumped out to the left, I was going to see him. And as I got to the tree, I went to the left side, over there, and I'm talking. I think I even had food in my pocket too, so I was ready to, like, here if you want something. But as I turned around to look on the other side, he wasn't there. And the only mistake I made was not looking up the tree. But the thing about it, Mike, is that being anywhere around 9 feet and him climbing that tree, I would had to see some hands or something grabbing along the side. So I didn't look up the tree. And and the and if he could have made a right angle, like from that tree, and just jump straight on an angle, he would have had to jump about I would say 30 feet at least, just to go and jump off the cliff. So this is the part where I say that, people say they're portals or how they disappear. This was my first head scratcher leading up to finding out more afterwards about their abilities of the paranormal, and how they can just magically change or whatever. So I went back to the beginning of where I saw him start to run. Now, this is 75 yards where I began to see him. And the terrain that was on that cliff ledge, I mean, there was bushes, trees falling down on the top there, rocks. There was rocks all over, and I couldn't understand how something that large and ran that fast didn't trip. I mean, he didn't even trip. It was like he was running on a field track, a sporting event, and but he did it, and that was the first encounter of me beginning to see him. That was the first time.
Everybody likes to say Bigfoot's a big, brawly, or what am I trying to say? Like a big, wide-shouldered, massive monster. Not always, right?
No. This guy was on a diet, slim diet, man. There's no way. I've seen him. I've seen him lighter than my freezer, that in other events. But this guy was thin as could be, but ran like the wind. It was amazing. So that just increased what I had to do, and I always documented everything. I just, from day one to this, I started writing things down because, I needed to understand, where I was living and all the wood knocks and the cracks of rocks hitting each other, and the chit chat and the chattering that was the most bizarre type of, an animal. It wasn't a bird at night going, like a chattering, to describe it. I really, it's almost, I think, how to say it, like if you played something on a fast speed or whatever, and it was gibberish, it was just a gibberish chatter. But, I just so many vocalizations. I just wrote everything on a calendar. I had a calendar, and I just write on the calendar what happened each day, what happened in May or what happened that week. And I just kept on getting notes and notes and notes, and just documenting the events. And that's, I said, I got to tell people what's happening here, and people did not believe that Bigfoot is in New England. They just really didn't, and I got a lot of criticism from writing my book and so on, but I needed to tell this story.
Well, Lauren Coleman's not up in Portland, Maine for no reason. I mean, there's Bigfoot sightings in every state. So
yeah, absolutely.
Historical ones as well.
Yeah, but many people don't know that, and just many really they just don't know that. And I mean, you get a lot of people there that just make a lot of nasty comments. It's just, and I wasn't ready for it. Really, man. I was like, trying to tell the truth and tell my story. And you got a lot of criticism. People just, I don't know if they say trolls or whatever, but you get attacked, trying to say it.
I think you telling your story, and again, I have your book in my Amazon cart, but I'll just say that listening to your version and other people's versions, there's a distinct possibility that Bigfoot could have all kinds of abilities that we don't understand. There's things about this planet that we don't understand. We haven't researched every single square mile of this planet, even the waters. So it's very possible that we're just looking, what you've experienced has probably been experienced by countless others who haven't come forward, but you have.
You know, there was in my life, unfortunately, and a lot of people have the same. There was a lot of death in my family, and a lot of people died young in unexpected ways. I just wanted to learn about why and why did this happen and why my life changed and things like that. So I knew about this medium, and she was the real deal, and she was also a healer. And I went and saw her a lot, and she knew things about death of my brother and my death of my father and cousins and so on. And so she always said to me, Chris, don't ever tell me what you want. Don't give me any clues or nothing. So I went to her, and after I was talking about things with my family and stuff, I said to Romy, Romy, there's something around the cabin, and I don't know what it is. So she goes, just look, pauses and says, I see something black. And she goes, oh, is it Bigfoot? And bingo, man, it was wonderful. Wonderful to hear that come out of her mouth. It was like hitting the lottery. And this was just before I saw him. I guess it may have been a year before or something. I'm trying to get the time because it was 2014. And she goes, is it Bigfoot? And she goes, I said, yes. I was thinking, okay, great. And I asked her, I said, what's going on about that with Bigfoot? And she goes to me, now listen, this woman's a saint, a pure woman, okay, that a person, genuine. And she goes, Chris, they've been here for thousands and thousands of years, but they're not from here. So your viewers can listen to me. They can say, you're full of crap, whatever this lady. I'm just telling you what I have learned. So I'm just giving you this information. Don't have to take it, listen to it, but I'm letting you know that that's what she said. And she goes and she said this to me afterwards. She goes, Chris, they want to make contact with you. So there's going to be a time, and maybe this week, it's going to happen. She was never off. I mean, close contact. So I'm talking contact with you, Mike, where I in my life now, getting a photograph with them. Hey, great. If you allow me, I'm going to ask them if I can take a photograph of them. But right now, in me, it's the communication level, the contact. These are highly intelligent beings, and they're just beyond just flesh and blood. So there's a reason. Like I went to West Virginia and Virginia, and I showed you how the female made contact with me. There's something that's going to happen, and this woman that I was seeing for a while, she doesn't lie. So I'm hoping that this time when I go away, there'll be something that I can tell you, some information. But that's what she said. They have been here for thousands and thousands of years, but they're not from here. And a lot of people have called me up and told me that there's some UFO sightings, and when they see UFOs, they see Bigfoot. And I'll say one thing, I can't be certain about that, but where I am on the mountain, of the cabin, I've seen plenty of UFOs. So, I don't know if there's a correlation, but Other people have come to me saying about it, and so that's all I can tell you from this wonderful woman that was a healer and had the gift of knowledge that was given to her. That's what she told me.
What do they look like? Can you give any type of a facial description? We kind
Well,
of understand they can be thin or they can be broad, but what do they
oh,
look like in the face?
okay. Now, you know, since I've been doing this for quite a while, people call me up and tell me, that they seen one that was a blonde, a good-looking one. I mean, literally, you know, and they're being in respect more human than a primate type feature. They a lot of them will tell me they're not that scary looking. They're almost like human looking. Well, the ones that I live with, they're flat face. I'm talking flat as an iron. I mean, really, really flat. No pronunciation of the nose or that. I mean, it just and the cheeks. I mean, it's flat. It's just more of a gorilla type. That's what I have seen. But a lot of people will call me from California or Virginia or Ohio and tell me about their encounters and what they say, and it's unbelievable. Like they're almost human. Some of them are. I mean, really facials. That look a lot like
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris.
All right, buddy. You have a good night.
We'll talk soon.
Yes, we will.
All right, folks. Thanks so much for listening. I really appreciate you tuning in and listening to Chris Merola and the story of the book, The One Who Runs and Hides. It's available on Amazon. I'll put it in my show notes. I'll also give you Chris Merola's email address, and if you'd like to reach out to him and give him a hand with some editing or just share your encounters with him. He's a great guy, and he's been very forthcoming. So have a great night. Just a reminder, Bigfoot Frightening Encounters episodes 1, 2, and 3 narrated by me will be in the show notes. And if you're looking for anything Bigfoot apparel-wise from Bigfoot's Wilderness, you can find it on Teespring. I'll leave the link there as well. And one last thing, if you've had an encounter and would like to share it with me, you can email me at bigfootswilderness@gmail.com. The link will be in the show notes. Have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you.